Thanks again for being there with us on the show this morning on ITV. Lovely Monday morning. Well, the OSUN State governorship election held on Saturday, and at the end of the election, results as announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, the constituted body to do that, pronounced Senator Ademola Adeleke of the PDP winner, having polled majority of the votes, and that puts paid to the reign of Governor Oyetola of the APC. Well, about 15 political parties participated in that election, and if you look at some of the data that are coming out in terms of the number of registered voters and the number of PVCs collected, it's really, really interesting. But this time around, we saw a massive outpouring of love by the people for the PDP candidate expressed in their vote pattern. But we'll be looking at other issues that emerged from that election in the next couple of minutes. Let me quickly welcome our panelist. Fares Okbari is a politician, is also a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us, Fares.
Thank you for having me, sir.
We also have with us Solomon Ijobe. Solomon is a civil society activist and also a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Duke. And viewers at home, very good morning this morning.
Engineer Esosa Omoegbe will be joining us shortly, and we hope he's able to make it here on time. But the show gets started right away. Now, this election, even from the build-up, it was projected to be a two-horse race between the PDP and the APC. Was it because it was a reenactment of what transpired in the last time, or it's a reflection of the strength of both parties on the ground in the state? First, let me start with you.
Yeah, you can say that, you can say the both of that. You know, let me take your mind back to 2018, when the two political giants, the PDP and the APC, contested that election, and the APC miraculously emerged with about 400 votes. You know, after the PDP candidate was leading with about 300 and something votes, and then the elections were declared inconclusive, and we all know what happened thereafter. So I think the PDP candidate did well, went back home, put his mass together. The APC was in crisis, they were divided, and then he took advantage, and then also the APC didn't really do well in the state. From what we have been saying, there's been a lot of complaints from the people that the government have kind of alienated the people, and they didn't handle the issue with the traditional rulers also. They handled it properly. You know, tried to impose traditional rulers on some of the local government and all of that. So everything backfired, and then the crisis with the former governor and all of that. So it wasn't for the APC to win at all this particular election. So I think we'll have to give it to INEC as well. INEC did a very good job.
All right. We had an ancillary election that just took place, I think, last month with the Ekiti State election. What would you say is the difference between this election and that of Ekiti State, Solomon?
There's nothing much that I could say is totally different from Ekiti and that of OSUN. They are both from Southwest, except for the fact that there is more moral lesson in that of the OSUN State to be learned, that a tree cannot make a forest, that you do not own it all, that nobody is an island. One would have expected much from the APC, considering the fact that it was a relative of the very popular BAT of the All Progressives Congress, and as such, one would have expected that the miracles will still happen. Like Fares mentioned, what happened last time would have shown that Adeleke is not a small fry in the politics of OSUN State, for instance. If you look at why I said there's no much difference, because the issues that happened in Ekiti State, for instance, the issue of vote buying, was still also very visible in the OSUN State elections, except for the comments from the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, who felt that it was not possible for them to lose Osun State, believing that they own everything. So for me, what I take from the Osun State gubernatorial election is to the extent or the fact that people should realize that people are more political conscious than before now, that people are more involved in elections than before now. It was a fight of two giants, as it were. Giants in the sense that Party A was ready to spend money and Party B was ready to spend money. Party A was ready to show influence and Party B was ready to also show influence. Somebody mentioned yesterday that it was a big blow to the presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress, owing to the fact that the outgoing governor is a cousin of his, and it's like an ancestral home of his that he has just lost. Now, to me, it was a message that election in Nigeria is not business as usual. Yes, you cannot take out the fact of, even though Davido is not a politician, you cannot take out the influence of young persons in politics as it stands today. So for me, Osun election is an eye-opener to what may happen in 2023.
Okay, that seems to be a major talking point. This line of thinking for us, is it because the APC is at the helm of affairs at the national level and then they've lost an election? So naturally, you get this kind of reactions and uproar, as far as the outcome of the election is concerned. Is that why people are feeling this way, that this election is going to give you an insight into what will happen at the national level? I didn't hear them say that in the Ekiti State governorship election, which the ruling party won.
Yes.
Up and square.
Yes, I think Osun State every 4 years, every 8 years, sets the pace for the national elections. If you go back to 2014, we had elections in Ekiti where Fayeshe won, and then we had elections in Osun 2 or 3 months later where Aregbesola won for his second term, and then they set the pace for Buhari's victory the next year, 2015. But what is I wouldn't say it's the same, it's completely the same this time around. What is different right now is that the 2023 elections will be determined by many factors. One, the caliber of candidates that we have in the political parties. Two, the political consciousness of the people. If you go around, you see now that there are massive registrations going on, which we didn't see before.
Yeah.
And if you could see the number of people that voted in the Osun elections, to tell you that people are more interested now in participating in the process. Now we had 405,000 votes for the PDP and 305,000 votes for the APC. And if you put together the APC votes, that of the APC and the other parties together, it is 403,000. So you have about 807,000 people that participated in that process. Whereas in the last election, the PDP had, I think, 230-something, and the APC had 230-something, so it's about 500,000. So you have 300,000 people more have participated in the process. That means a whole lot. Now, it's almost the same thing everywhere. People are registering, people are trying to be part of the political process. So a lot of things will determine the 2023 general elections. For example, I think I made a post on Facebook yesterday in relation to this election, that we cannot just conclude to say, oh, this is a verdict on Tinubu, or it's a verdict on the APC, or this is how the 2023 election is going to look like. There are many factors that will determine it. You know that this election is largely between two Yoruba people, largely a local election. Is largely between a party that has not really done well in the state, in that state, and it's largely a people that feel like their delicate family have been cheated 4 years ago and they need to
compensate them.
So there are so many factors that determine that one. But in the general elections, there will be issues. The issues are that you have a party that has presented a northern candidate, Muslim candidate,
yeah.
And you have a party also that feels like the current president is from the north, and that party is presenting a candidate also from the north, which most people from the south will feel that is an injustice to the south. So there are so many other factors, and then we cannot take away the fact that you have the OB and the obedient movement. I mean, which is growing very strong. You can't deny that. It's growing strong, mainly in the southern part of the country, and we all know that the PDP controls most states in the southern part of the party, and the person in the middle of the obedient movement, which is former Governor Peter Obi, he was a member of the PDP. He's leaving the PDP, also has removed a lot of people from the PDP. He's reaching out to a lot of young people. If you see the people who are promoting the obedient movement, they are mainly young people.
Yeah.
They are mainly young people. So it's going to hurt more of the PDP than any other party. And then today, as you can see, the PDP is in crisis in so many states. Number one, the choice of Okowa hasn't gone down well with many of the governors. So there are so many issues that the PDP need to resolve between now and the 2023 general election. So the 2023 general elections wouldn't be straightforward the way the OSUN elections are. There are going to be factors that will determine it, and some of those factors will come to bear between now and 2023.
Okay. As beautiful as these analyses are in terms of the popularity of the candidates, in terms of the performance of the outgoing governor, as it were, and all of that, the incidence of vote buying was still so strong in the OSUN election. What does that tell us?
It tells us that the political system in Nigeria is still growing and we have a lot to do about it. It shows that there's still no much credibility in our electoral system. But of course, you know that in the electoral law, it's an offense to do money exchange. The law also carries to the fact that there's to an extent political parties can spend. But all of that are not seen, they are just paperwork, and that nobody has ever been convicted over the issue of the party have overspent or short the benchmark of political expenditure as is enshrined in the Electoral Act. So it's a mark and something we must watch out for in the 2023 general elections. However, like Perez mentioned, factors. Elections are determined by factors and facts. And taking the factors and facts into consideration, he mentioned performance as part of the factors. The skirmish between the outgone and the present as another factor and the facts. And then the political awareness of the people as a major factor and the basic facts in the OSUN global election. And these are the major factors that are going to play in the 2023 general elections. Look, let me tell you, performance. There's no gainsaying the fact that the current system in Nigeria is not working. There's no performance. Insecurity everywhere. Never been this worse. Then you talk about economic factors. Things are skyrocketing every day. Look, you cannot boldly say that when you leave this studio and you are driving back to a filling station that you are going to buy fuel the same amount you bought while you were driving into this studio. It's a fact. Now, you look at the lost love amongst, he talked about the ceremony in the PDP and the lost love among governors over the choice of Okowa and all that. How about the APC? People like Boala resigning from the APC because of the Muslim tickets. Some northern elites who are Christians also crying that it's not done that way. Then you look at the comments being made by the vice presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress. Initially, when he said religion and ethnicity is not an issue to be afraid of, that it's about what you have to offer. And a few days later, he came again to say that Obi cannot be president in Nigeria, can only be president in Igbo land. And what's that? Sentiment. You are bringing the same ethnicity you said was not a problem into
bringing
play.
it to bear into the conversation now.
You understand?
Yeah.
And then you also reawakening the minds of those who were already thinking that, okay, if you said so, ethnicity also was not an, religion was also not an issue. This issue of religion is going to play a very major factor in the election. The issue of a northern candidature, because when you say ethnicity is not an issue, yet the northern elites, in quotes, prior to this election, both in PDP and in APC, naturally should have zoned the presidency to the southern region of the country. Yeah. But they did it. They left it open. Because there was a clamor, massive clamor, that the presidency should return to the north because President Goodluck Jonathan stole parts of their mandate while he was in government, or time, or space, if you like.
Yeah.
And as such, they needed to make up for it. And the same you came back and you are telling us now that ethnicity and religion was not an issue. Because part of the canvas was about Goodluck Jonathan was a Christian and a Southerner, and as such should not take their space and their place. So these are factors that must play. Then the younger generations. Look, Edo election, for instance, Fares can attest to that, was won mainly by the younger generations and basically via the efforts of social media. Diaspora influence played a major role in that election. And as you can see, like he has mentioned, the Obi movement, not a campaign, as it were, has much diaspora influence and the young generation's influence. And these are part of the factors that is going to determine the 2023 general elections. For instance, like if you listen to Dino Melaye yesterday, while he was talking to the APC presidential candidate, he said, you have left your ancestral home. It's a lesson to be learned. I don't know if you get it. It was a message, a huge one. But that is not to say all is over for the APC. Because like he also said, the pedigree of the persons contesting is another factor. Okay. Looking at Atiku Abubakar, who has contested elections repeatedly in the last few presidential elections in Nigeria. Looking at Jagaban,
who has been there
all through. He was a major factor when Olusegun Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria. For instance, when he created local governments in his states, the federal government denied him allocation, and he said, don't worry, we'll survive. He was one of the major governors who stood their grounds against the then President Olusegun Obasanjo's regime. Yeah. And since then till now, he has been very influential in decision making, in crowning who becomes who and what in Nigeria. Many of the ministers, as we speak today, have either at one point or the other had a contact or had worked with him.
So now, all of this will play out in
the next general election. Then the major factor is that the Nigerian people are tired of the recycling and the incessant killing, if you like, terrorism, armed robbery, kidnapping, banditry. The air is no longer safe, the rail is not safe, the road is not safe, and very many other issues as it concerns economics. Okay, let me these are part of the things I'll
come back to you in a moment. If you just join us, it's still TMI Monday. I mean, politics is such an overwhelming system in such a way and manner that when you take off from one point, you can just go on and on and on and on. And I mean, it just starts dragging in a whole lot of issues. We teed off from the outcome of the OSUN State governorship election, which the PDP candidate won clearly, and celebration is ongoing in that state. We heard this morning that one of the supporters shot himself in the course of celebration. Then I was asking the question, how did he have access to firearms that eventually killed him? Was he a soldier, a policeman, or an SSS official? I mean, what right did he have to have access to arms and ammunition? But that's a question for another day. Let me come to you, Perez. The OSUN election, at least for now, is won and lost. We don't know the intention of the incumbent governor. But it is very interesting to know that the incumbent governor was actually seeking re-election, and that didn't materialize. What does that goes to show about him and then his relationship with the people, even though we want to say that, oh, the people were for the PDP, but we also heard of massive vote buying in the election?
Yes, you know, I always thought the last amendments to the Electoral Act, they did a good job, but they failed in one critical aspect, which is addressing the issue of vote buying. For every other thing that we put into, you saw what the BVAS did in that election. Yes. We saw what the automatic transmission of results. Also, I was in my house monitoring the elections, and I went online, and I could see from the INEC portal the results, live results posted from the units. We've not seen that before. The process before now is that you finish the election at the unit, we all escort the unit. Let me take my own, for example. I vote in ASA Northeast, Unit 5, Ward 7. We'll finish elections, then we'll collate at the unit. We'll collate at the unit. The elections will be announced. We'll escort the results from there to the Ward Collation Center. They will collate. When they finish collating at the Ward Collation Center, we will all escort the result to the local government collation center. We'll collate. When we finish collating, we'll all now move our cars, drive, escort the results to Benin, to Kubahil. They will now collate again. If it is a national election, they will finish collating them. You also still escort the same result to Abuja for national collations. You see the time, the process, all of that. This has been addressed. The issue of talks invading the collation center and snatching the result sheet or changing it, those ones were not there. The electoral amendment addressed all of that. But it failed critically to address the issue of vote buying, the issue of inducement. And that could have been addressed by setting up a special agency within INEC that work with the police and other security agencies that goes around on election day to arrest people who are inducing voters in the field. It goes to some other African states. You cannot even share anything during an election. It's considered inducement, which means you cannot take a cup, you cannot take a bottle of wine or something to the field on that election and give to anybody.
Not even water.
Not even water. Everybody comes, bring your stuff, do your voting, and go home. So the party as itself, that they cannot bring anything for anybody. So that it's not considered
to be an inducement. Because it's against the law.
It's against the law. But here it's allowed. People will cook food and bring to the field and say, oh, APC members come and line here and take food, or those that want to vote for PDP come to this side and take food. It's an inducement. Because you understand that we're in a country that poverty is rife. And people will sell their vote for a plate of rice. And we've seen it before. It's not new. We've seen it that people will cook food, take it to the polling units. People will come and they will give them food and they will vote for that party for giving them just a plate of rice and meat on election day. So, in all of this has not been addressed. But, like my brother actually said, it's a process. We are going somewhere. Elections were not like this in 1999.
10 years ago.
In 2003. You could see how elections were then. You go to the field, people will come, they'll shoot gun, drive everybody, snatch the ballot box, snatch all the papers, carry their next staff, go somewhere, print all of them, put it in the box, bring it back, count and declare the results. And then it's accepted. We saw in Imo State where a returning officer said on the field that he He was held at gunpoint to declare a result. And he declared the result, and they went to court. The court said, well, there's no law that says that we cannot stop this, we cannot declare this person a winner. At the end of the day, the person is still in the Senate. I don't know if you understand. Yeah. So all of that will be addressed. The new law says that if a result is declared under duress, then INEC have the powers to cancel that result. Not even the court. INEC have the powers to cancel it. Ordinarily before, INEC does not have powers to cancel any result that has been declared. It has to go to the court. So all of this has been done. We saw that many of the issues that we have in previous elections before have been cleared out, have been ironed out. The only issue we still have now is voter inducement. Paying for votes, bribing INEC officials, or all of that is still ongoing. And we're in a process. As time goes on, I think INEC should learn from this. The system should learn from this, go back. Now that they are pushing that the president should, they want to re-amend the law again so that the senators and the House of Rep members and the other party officials that were, political appointees that were excluded from voting in the party primaries, they should also look at this one. Okay. It's very important that they should do something about it. Let the system create an agency of sorts, just like you have the ICPC.
But I read the story that EFCC arrested some people that were involved in vote buying. In the Ekiti State election, we also saw EFCC on the ground. During the party primaries, we saw EFCC on the ground monitoring. And I'm amazed that in spite of all the dollar flows and all of that, EFCC could not catch one person.
Even at the party national primaries, that's presidential primaries, both the PDP and the APC presidential primaries. Of course, it was a flow of dollar, flow of money.
Yeah, but EFCC didn't have anything.
They didn't see anything. Because they can't see anything.
Why can't they see anything?
Because they were not meant to see something.
What do you mean they were not meant to see something? Isn't that part of their responsibility?
Because we are in Nigeria.
But that's why they were there.
Duke, because we are in Nigeria. It's only in Nigeria monkeys and snakes can swallow money, yet you cannot get them. It's a Nigeria thing. It's an institutional thing. If you agree with me, you will understand that some persons are stronger than institutions. So we have weak institutions in Nigeria, but stronger persons. And until, who told you that police didn't see the rigging process in Ekiti and Osun? In fact, from our bush radio, we discovered that the rigging started even from the security agencies. Because if they were not collaborating, these persons didn't have disappearing acts. On the issue of the presidential elections, they said the vote buying didn't take place within the arena. It took place in their various hotel rooms. Who told you that ICPC cannot screen or EFCC cannot analyze all the delegates that came? Because it was a delegate thing.
Yeah.
And you knew, of course, you know where they went. For instance, if you are going to any elections, you have to do SSS screening. You understand? So we all know how it works.
Right, let me pause you there. Esosa Omorogbe is joining us now. We'll just take a short break and then, of course, admit him to the studio for us to conclude this discussion. Please stay with us on TMI. Staying with us on the show this morning on ITV, really on the concluding lap of the show. Engineer Esosa Omorogbe is joining us now. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you must have had a hectic time dealing with traffic on the Monday morning. Is that crazy? Exactly. Anyway, I'm sure you followed the Osun State election and its outcome. What are the lessons from the election? What are the takeouts?
Well, there is hope for Nigeria democracy. This is the first election after the signing of the Electoral Act as amended.
First election or second election?
Oh, the
second election after Ekiti.
Yeah. But this was a major one that people really followed with keen interest, especially with the obedient movement and all of that. But one thing is certain is that there is hope for Nigeria democracy. The people of Osun State spoke through the ballot box. And in my opinion, despite the fact that my party lost, it was a free and fair election, and it's a warning signal to all that the people are watching and following. From what we've gathered, the facts are still coming anyway. there were a whole lot of promises by the incumbent governor, you know, and some of them were not fulfilled. Maybe the people reacted to that as well. There was also infighting, wrestling and wrangling within the APC. The former governor, Rauf Arigbe-Shola, you know, the predecessor of the incumbent governor, was not really with the governor in this race. At the end of the day, I think it all showed in the ballot box. And PDP in Osun State may have got their ass together. For instance, the governor-elect, as it is today, Mr. Senator Adeleke, was presumed to have won the 2018 election in the court of public opinion. And even in the court of law, there was a minority judgment of the Supreme Court
on that election.
That that election, in the opinion of the minority judges, were already concluded and there shouldn't have been a rerun. So with that build-up, you see that Adeleke
this was a reward for to Senator Adeleke.
Exactly, exactly. And APC has been on the decline since the time of the first election of Rauf Arigbe-Shola. I think he first won with 20. He first won 20 local government in his first election. In the second election, I think he won 18. You know, 18 local government. Then the incumbent governor Oyetola, sorry, you know, won with a lesser margin. I think about 15 local government. And then in the last election, in this very election, he won just 13 local government. I think they've been on the decline. And that shows that the people are watching and then they will reward or punish.
Does this election have any implication for 2023 at the national level? Ooh. Because people have talked about, oh, this is the ancestral home of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now he's lost it. There's a lot of implication. And in fact, Fares said here that Osun State election always has a way, the outcome of the election always has a way of impacting on the national election. Do you subscribe to this?
Yes and no. Yes, because the APC flag bearer in person of Ahmed Bola Tinubu is from the Southwest. We were hoping that he should be able to deliver all of the Southwest in any of the election preceding his own election. After all, he was a grant to campaign. You know, no, because a day is a long time in politics and anything can still happen between now and 2023.
Okay, let's quickly conclude on this. The 2023 election, I mean, is getting closer by the day with all the activities going on. Let's now begin to engage the determining factors for the 2023 elections. People have talked about the resurgence of awareness on the part of the people, manifesting in more collection of PVCs and all of that. How do you think this can be translated into votes? Looks like we've gotten something close to that with the outcome of the Osun State election, Fares.
Yes, like I said before, a lot of people have. This particular election is going to be a make or break for Nigeria, so many people are now interested in the process. Particularly, I did mention the issue of the obedient movement. You see, after the PDP presented an article and the APC presented the Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of people felt that these same people have always been there. So there's this clamor for a third force by the younger people, and that was what we saw in the process leading to a lot of people now going to registration centers to get their PVCs or to get registered, and it's still ongoing. I must quickly mention that as well. You know, and you see that now that these guys are fully registered, they are not interested. A lot of them are not interested in PDP. A lot of them are not interested in APC. I'm not saying who will win the election for now, but you could tell that there is a different angle that the young people are looking at. And in Nigeria, we're a country of young people. The young people in Nigeria, we outnumber the older generation and even the elderly. So they have the numbers. And if every of the young people come out to say, okay, we want to vote a particular candidate, just be rest assured that person will win. Because by the demographics, the young people in Nigeria have the numbers. Okay. But also, let me quickly also say that we've all seen before now, that young people do not participate in the political process in Nigeria. they never participate in it. I'm hoping it changes this year, but they never participate in it. In all the elections that we've always had, younger people tend to play football on election day or don't even participate at all. They don't get registered. And if you still look at the percentage of those that are still not registered, it still falls within
the younger people.
Those between 18 to 30. You still have the highest number of people who are not interested, who are going to be registered. It's only in Nigeria you have that kind of process.
All right, quickly, yeah.
Yeah, the electoral terrain is becoming very, very interesting in Nigeria. There's more consciousness and awareness. As a matter of fact, in this last OSUN State election, there were a large number of voters turnout. I think we have more than 40% or so. Okay. So with that consciousness, I believe that this will be a propellant to the 2023 election. You can see if you go to any of the registration centers, I mean INEC registration centers, you see long queues, you see a lot of people, pregnant women, young people, market women, students, everybody coming out to be part of the process. Simply because the Nigerians do not want to speak through the bullet anymore. They want to speak through the ballot. They want to express their voices. As a matter of fact, if we say we are not tired of this older generation, we'll be lying. I'm a card-carrying member of the APC, and there's every chance that I'm going to work 100% for the candidature of the APC. But the truth be said that President Muhammad Buhari, as the leader of the APC, has failed. And all of these indices are going to play up in 2023.
No, but there's a difference between I will work for the leadership or for the candidate of the APC, and I will vote for the candidate. There are two different things.
Which of them are you saying? I'm sure you are not going too far. He has said that he's sure he's working
there are two different things.
Allow him. This is right. This is right. You have the right to work for.
Exactly. So that is me as a person. However, we have to distinguish between the personalities that are, in short, it's going to be a lot of tests. Where it's going to be a test of our religiosity, whether we are following religion, Muslim ticket, whether it's going to be a test of our ethnicity, whether we are following a Fulani, stroke Niger Delta, we are following a Yoruba, stroke, you understand, stroke Northerner, or we are going to vote an Eastern. It's going to be a test of everything that is Nigerianness, and it's going to be very interesting.
All right, let me get your final take.
Like I said, it's going to be very interesting. Because, like I had mentioned earlier, there are a lot of factors that's going to play on the 2023 general elections. People are tired. People just want a change. And like Perez mentioned, this election is about the younger generation. It's about the local men.
When you have younger people between 18 and 30 not still coming out to register.
Let me tell you, let's say about 70...
that sort of influence that you see on social media.
No. Duke, let's say about 70% of the Nigerian youth had never or had not been participating in the general elections before now. But I can tell you about 30% of the 70% have woken up. And that has a mark.
I think I agree with that.
If they participate the way they participate in BBN.
Let me tell you, before now, let me tell you, to show that there is serious awakening, people didn't want to queue up for PVC. The way they are queuing up now, the way people are queuing up for PVC is like they are queuing up for NIN. It's just the same, almost the same thing. And you know that people queuing up for NIN was because of their SIM card. Okay. And what was that? It was interest. Now, for people queuing up for PVC, like NIN, it means it's the same interest. People are becoming more conscious.
What is it about these conversations along the lines of structure, party structure?
Now, let me tell you, as we stand, you know you were tactical, trying to get my brother to pin down on something. Look, Sonny Duke, what is structure? I asked somebody, did Labour Party have structure in Ekiti? No. But what was the position of Labour Party in Ekiti election? Second. So when you talk about structure, who are the structures? I'll ask you. And I'll use Perez is here.
Ekiti, I think it was SDP that came second in that election.
Okay, I think third. Okay.
Yes,
now, let me, sorry, SDP. But even SDP, what structure did SDP have in the Ekiti election? But let me tell you.
Omisore was a force.
Now, let me
you can't wish him away.
He was very strong.
No, when you talk, because it's talking about structure. Meaning, we are talking about visibility in virtually all the local government wards and all. It wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Now, look at the elections that brought in Governor Obaseki in this last election. Did Obaseki really have that structure prior to that election? Considering the factors.
He was in a party that had structure.
PDP has structure.
PDP has structure.
No, when I say, because he was just coming, and there were issues in PDP. To the extent that there were even issues in court. And it was only a few days to the elections, and there were still stray knives within the political party. But the narrative was because a few persons felt that there was a need to participate and be involved.
Oh, let me take a final word from you.
First and foremost, I've been to the registration centers and I've seen people bribing their way to register. I've seen people bribing their way to get their people registered. That shows the interest. I'm saying it on air. Go and verify according to the obedient people. However, let me quickly now harp on the structure issue. Any politician that is worth his salt and onion will know that structure is very relevant in any electoral constitution. We can't wish it away. If Labour Party is going to have an impact in this election, I will advise them that you should start working on structure. And that is
what you're saying is not anti-party.
No. Okay. And that is a minus.
It's just a Nigerian.
Yeah, I'm a Nigerian speaking freely.
Go ahead.
And that is a minus for them. It is still going to be a two-horse race. Maybe Obi will make an impact, but it's still going to be a fight between the APC and PDP because of the structures. Governors, they have their influences, across the local government down to the ward level. Then House of Assembly members, House of the National Assembly members, and even the executive of the party. I'm not too sure that Labour has all of that across the federation.
So let me quickly explain that issue of structure we talk about. You see, there's followership. You have followership. You have a particular leader, people are following, and then you have a movement. Now what you do is that, what you call structure is that you structure that movement.
You break it down.
You break it down so that everybody knows who is who, where to perform, what role you are going
Division
to do.
of labor, simply
So
put.
that is the structure they talk about. It's not what it means structure. People think it's about, just having, you have to structure that.
Party agents.
You understand? For example, I was reading on Vanguard this morning, and there was a line where they said that in many of the polling units in OSUN, the Labour Party had no agents
to man them.
to man them. So those are the kind of things we talk about when we talk about structure. So you have to have a structured followership. So you have to be able to break it down. So, okay, this is role, this is what Mr. A will be doing, this is what Mr. B will be doing, this is the leader.
Let me just help Perez. Let me just help you so that you conclude on that. I heard of a situation in this Osun State election where one of the INEC officials said he or she doesn't have the data. The people of the PDP agents and all of them say, don't worry. That's the structure. We'll help you with data, however it is. That's the structure.
To send the results.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if for instance, Labour was in such a situation and there was nobody to do that, that result would have been maybe a negative or cancelled, or
there's
all
a
of
delay
those
for
things.
that result to
Exactly.
manifest.
So those are the kind of things we mentioned about when you talk about structure. You have to have it prearranged, put it in place, and all of that, and then people can now say, okay, identify with particular. I'm sure they are trying to do that because, for example, in my local government, I see that a lot of
secretariats now,
somebody has
secretariats everywhere.
A very big building.
People are
donated by Reverend Matthew.
Those
things are
I'm aware of a friend who is paying for office space for the party in his local government. So a lot of people are volunteering, and that's, you see, let me tell you what it is when you talk about structure. It's like the NSAS movement. It started like, because when you are talking about structure and structure, it was structureless, as it were, but it made an impact.
Tremendous impact.
And the impact is still very visible. And the facts contained in that movement is still very much alive. So for me, when you talk about Obi structure or labor structure, We just is Obi's movement is something to watch out for.
Okay,
in the 2023
that's the much we have on this segment of the show, TMI. Let me say big thanks to our panelists. Paris Okbere, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Esosa Omoegbe, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Comrade Solomon Ijogbe,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's the TMI Monday. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with you to talk more, and then Breakfast Sport will be coming up with Solomon Aino. Stay with us.